in a few minutes. Martin, can you give me the next slide, please? So before we start digging into the products and some of their capabilities, I just want to give you a little bit insight in about what we are doing at Oracle with these testing tools. So the testing tools, OATS, or the Oracle Application Testing Suite, is something that my team has co-developed with a lot of other Oracle applications teams in order to create the best possible testing solution in the market for those technologies. We do all our testing on massive internal clouds. We call them farms. And just as kind of to give you an idea, if we just take one single testing team, and with this 80,000 test automation scripts they run every single day, they produce about 1.5 terabytes of data in forms of reports, screenshots, log files, and so on. So it's a massive operation for them alone. But we have all of the other Oracle applications teams as well, like EBS, Siebel, JD Edwards, and you name it. We also use this internally for all our own applications. If we look at some of the quantities, you know, there are hundreds of thousands of test automation scripts that they have built over the years. We do huge benchmarks, and everything is done here using the application testing suite. Next slide, please. So the Oracle Application Testing Suite really consists of three main components. So you have Oracle Functional Testing, or if you're testing Oracle applications, you would refer to Oracle Functional Testing Suite for Oracle applications. And this is kind of the centerpiece of the solution. It's not because functional testing is necessarily the most important part of the puzzle, but this is really the scripting engine that we have for everything. So all the scripts that we create are going to be created from this solution. And you can use this to test web-based applications as well as SOA web services-based applications. And Oracle packaged applications, of course, because they are primarily web-based, even if they have some specialities in many cases. We have Oracle load testing. And this is really if you want to do load and performance testing of any kind. Same here. So it's browser-based applications as well as web services-based ones. And one of the pretty cool things that we have here is that we have some great integrations into Oracle's Enterprise Manager and, for example, the Java or the database diagnostics. This means that if you're running a load test, for example, and you have an Oracle Enterprise Edition database in the back end, and you happen to have the diagnostics pack, you can actually gather those statistics and reports while you're running the load test. And the load test tool will then later on tell you exactly what kind of issues you have in the database layer, what kind of negative impact those have, and maybe most impressive, how you can go around and fix those issues. So the tool actually tells you that, which is pretty cool. Last but not least, we have the Oracle Test Manager, and this is really a solution that helps you to keep track on your whole testing process. It covers everything from the test planning, the requirements management, the test case management, as well as defects reporting and tracking of those. So it's really one big suite, but you can go for the individual pieces that you need for your testing needs. Next slide, please. So what we wanted to do today was really to touch on Flow Builder, which was in the invite that you had for this event. And Flow Builder is a part of Oracle Functional Testing. So when you purchase Oracle Functional Testing, you have two different possibilities. So you can either record scripts in the traditional way using OpenScript, which is our scripting environment. And this is an environment where you just record your scripts and you can view and edit them either graphically or as Java code. It's very easy to use and very powerful. In addition to this, you have the ability to work with keyword-driven testing, and this is really what Flow Builder is all about. But Flow Builder will generate OpenScript scripts. So at the end of the day, it's always going to be the same kind of script, regardless in what kind of tool you use in order to create them. Next slide, please. One of the big differentiators between Oracle solution and many others out there in the market is really our accelerators. So the accelerators are code pieces that makes the testing tool application aware. It means that if you, for example, want to test Oracle's e-business suite, what you do is that you pick and choose the Oracle e-business suite accelerator during the script creation. And the tool will automatically then understand how to, in the best possible way, identify objects on the screens, or how to do correlations best if you're creating load and performance test scripts. And this is really, really important. The testing tool understands the application that you're testing. It understands that you have specific EBS-related objects, for example. It's not just a bunch of HTML tags grouped together. It really understands that this is a specific kind of control. And this is important because you want to get as robust scripts as possible. And the reason for this is that you don't want to redo your test automation just because something small changed in your application, which is typically the case if you go for more generic solutions. These accelerators have been built together with the various teams at Oracle, and that is really what gives the solution the power. So we go to the next slide, please. So the key benefit of the accelerators are really that it supports all of the big major applications that we have at Oracle. It's built by us for the Oracle applications, and we use this internally. So even before you as a customer get your hands on this software, it's already been proven inside Oracle to make sure that it really works, which means that it's whenever we have anything new coming out in the market from EBS, for example, it's already been proven with this tool. And as a result of this, we get faster scripting, it's less script maintenance, and we simply make your life a little bit easier. Next slide, please. So we wanted to talk about Flow Builder. And Flow Builder, what Flow Builder is a keyword-driven testing framework. And this was originally designed by the EBS QA. They wanted to have a solution that made it easier for them to make test automation and have all of their employees being able to do test automation. And what you do is, instead of recording a transaction flow where you are clicking around in the application and providing entries, you basically mimic the user actions by describing them using keywords. Like, for example, a click. So if you have to do a click on a specific button, what you do is you specify this in the tool that you want to have an operation action, a click. What do you want to click? Well, you select that you want to click a button. Which button do you want to click? Well, you define what kind of button it is. And then maybe you want to enter a text. So you use the keyword set text. And where do you want to write the text? Well, you want to write it into a flex field or to a input field or whatever it is. So you basically have to describe whatever actions you want to have. We chain these different actions together in what we call components. And these components are reusable so that you can, whenever you created a component, you can reuse that for other purposes in other flows. And whenever you have any changes into your application, you simply have to go in and change the components that are affected by this change. This makes the tool very, very powerful and very quick to work with. What you do later is that you take the components and chain them together and create your test automation flow. Next slide, please. So when you have the flow builder solution alongside with the traditional record and playback, you have a lot more options. So you could either go and record your scripts, and when you have the accelerators, you are going to be able to reduce your scripting efforts pretty efficiently by just having that. So what we've seen is that if you compare the Oracle solution with the HP solution, you can reduce the EBS scripting effort by about 50%. This is what we've seen at the EBS QA team, as well as customers. If you throw in Flow Builder into the mix, you can reduce the scripting effort by another 60% on top of the 50, which gives you a reduction by up to 80%, which is an amazing number. And it's something that we have seen both internally at Oracle as well as at customers. So this is something that can really help you get going with your test automation. And with that, let me hand everything over to Mazen Arar, who is really the star of tonight or today. He is the senior director for EBS QA and one of the people that have actually designed Flow Builder originally, and they use this day out and day in their QA efforts.
Thank you so much, Mikhail. Thank you for the introduction. So hello, everyone. As Mikhail said, this is the product that we use day in, day out, actually. And as Mikhail was saying, when you get Flow Builder, you get the pre-built test, e-business test content, which is really, it's a starter pack. It supports 12.1 and 12.2, 12.13 and 12.2, and you get over 3,600 components and over 230 flows. So the components that you were looking at, that Mikhail was talking about, which basically is almost a snapshot of a page, of a form, instead of recording it every time you need to go and record the flow, instead of recording it over and over, you just take that one snapshot, you save it as a component. So we have that done already for you. We have over 3,600 of those components already done in a repository as part of the starter pack. So all what you do is really just like, as you see in this slide, you just create your flows with those components and add your data, and you're good to go. Now, for the actual flows, you just add your data and you're good to go, assuming you have generic flows. These components here span across eBusiness Suite. They are basically certification flows, integration, end-to-end flows. They make sure that your product is not dead out of the box. It's up and running. All your key business flows are already automated, basically. On the top of that, you can also additionally acquire the Advanced Pack, which Advanced Pack, as you can see, it covers 10 product families. It spans across all these products that you see listed here, from channel revenue management, asset life management, and so on. Now, the question could be, what's the difference between the starter pack that actually comes with Flow Builder and the Advanced Pack? So that would be the starter pack is certification flows, key business flows, the must-have. And then if you are really heavily using any of these products here, because some of them are duplicates, procurement is showing up in both, you don't just need the certification key business flows that you get with the starter pack. You need complex scenarios, complex test flows, deep dives, all that you get as part of the starter pack, I mean the Advanced Pack. And as you can see, it's over 95% coverage. So I know that many customers that are using some of these products, they were really interested in Advanced Pack because it covers a lot of complex deep dive scenarios. Now, on the top of that, I just want to make sure that everybody knows what APIs, web services, open interfaces are. Basically, those are stored procedures that enable you to insert and update data in Oracle applications. So if you want to do mass updates to like 5,000 items, 500 items, updates, or create, instead of going through the UI and doing them creating them or updating them one by one, you can use the API or the open interface or web services. Oracle Flow Builder now supports web services and APIs, and this is huge because the advantage here, you automate your mass uploads in an application. What takes hours can take seconds now using Flow Builder. Recently released support for the 12.1.3 for these products. We have over 875 components that support APIs and 48 flows. And those are the flows that people usually use. So for APIs, like I said, open interface, web services, we have like create an item, all these common APIs that are already automated for you to use. And there are many ways to verify that your work has been done. So that's like via the user interface, you can verify it, or you can get an output after you upload your file, your data. You can get an output to show you that the changes or the data that needs to be updated has been done. All right. So now we support 12.1.3, and very soon 12.2 support should be coming out for the API web services. So to give you a quick example here for the value that's added, if you want to create, in project management, if you want to create a project, that takes about 1 to 1.5 hours using the UI. Versus, and I timed it myself, it takes 26 seconds if you use the API, the automated API. Also, if you want to create task assignments in project management, this is just an example, but the same applies to products across eBusiness Suite. A task that takes 15 minutes using the UI, it takes 8 seconds. So this is drastic savings in time. So before I start with a demo here, I just want to say, I just want to say, just because you're thinking of automation, it doesn't only really mean automate your test flows. You need to be thinking outside of the box. Many customers that have end of month closing books, anything that you repeat over and over and over, it definitely makes sense that you automate that task. So like I said, it does not have to be automating your test flows. Any task that you do repeatedly, just like using the APIs with updating items or creating inventory, you can use that to automate. Any task you do at the beginning of the month, end of the month, go ahead and automate it. It'll make your life much easier, and the savings are huge. So let's take a quick look at the demo and see what it looks like, see what the product looks like. Before I start, I just want to say our focus here really is the ease of use. We want to make sure anybody can use the tool. We want to make sure it's not technical at all. So for many customers, the minute they hear about automation, they think of, great, a developer is going to be doing this. And this is definitely not the point. We want to make sure, in fact, the thousands and thousands of test flows at Oracle itself have been developed by the functional users. And my team, which is a functional team, they create it day in, day out. So let's see what the product looks like and how easy it is to automate your test flows. First, when you log in, it's not a Unix login screen, just to make it a kind of easy UI. You log in with your username and password. We're logging in as an administrator here. You get into the home page first. This is where you give people access to the application. You give them the rights to create test flows and to delete, add components, and so on. So let's look at the components repository. I'm clicking on the components link up there. And this is your repository now. Remember, components are created only one time. Once the component is created, which is a snapshot of that specific region, it's a form, it's a HTML, whatever it is, it's created one time and it's saved in the repository. So let's look at those components, how to find them. You can either browse to find your component, and usually components go under the product where they belong. So if I'm looking for the purchase order header component, I just go to procurement, purchasing, and then I would go to form BPA, blanket purchase agreement, and right there I see my components that are used for the purchase order, and a create purchase order header is right there. If you're not sure where it could be, you can just easily search for that component using wildcard, or just select which library you're searching in, and the same thing that shows up on the left via browsing, you can do it via the search. So now we know we have our components all in a repository. How do we create flow? The demo I'm going to show you here is I'm going to create a flow where a user logs in, purchase an item, add the item to cart, create a requisition, and sign out. And then the manager or somebody else comes in, query that specific requisition that was created by the user, auto-create it to a purchase order, and approve it. I clicked on the flow link on the top, and because my flow is a procurement flow, I'm going to go ahead and create it under procurement, and then procurement. And remember, we said ease of use. So what you do to create flow, you right-click on the name of the actual product where you want your flow to be stored. You get shortcut menu, and from that you select create flow. You enter the name of the flow that you want to create and create acquisition. And then the flow type, is it certification flow? Is it sanity check only, high severity? Whatever you want your flow type to be, that's all customizable. You can change it. After that, you enter tags, so you can come back and find that flow if you search for it. And of course, a nice description that tells you what it is. In this case, the description is create requisition, then auto-create it into a purchase order and approve it. Really easy. You click on create structure. What you do, you get the structure would be the actual flow, and usually the flow comes with one scenario only that has the name of the actual flow. In this case, because I'm doing two different scenarios, one create requisition, the second auto-create it into PO, I'm going to update my scenarios. This is just the structure. There is no components or anything yet. So first, I update the name of my first scenario by right-clicking, getting a shortcut menu, and I want it to be only create requisition. Now I want to create a second scenario. This is just a placeholder. I add a second scenario below, and I call it auto-create requisition into a purchase order. Now we have this housekeeping items taken care of. Let's go into our approved components library and start dragging and dropping those components. Another thing I like to add here about Flow Builder, what's really cool about it is, as you can see, we are creating an automated test flow without even having an environment available. Because we already have the perfect snapshots of these regions in the application already stored in our repository. So you don't need an environment to create it. And also because I want my flow to be generic enough to run on any environment out there, I would have my first item to add, my first component with, I go to my generic library where the components that do not belong to any application are stored in, like login into the application, navigation, all those components go under the generic library. So under my generic library, I would go to OATS, and the first component I see there is prompt URL. Now this is an excellent component if you want your flow to be generic to run on basically any environment out there. So you drag and drop that component, prompt URL, and then after that you need to log in to the application. So we drag and drop login OS. As you see, there is no development, no coding needed at all. You just drag and drop. So if you know your application, if you know what the test flow is going to be, it should be really easily dragged and dropped for you here. So we drag and drop the navigation. Now we're done with the navigation. We're going to the actual app. So I want to add items to cart, but I don't remember where that component might be. I just put wildcard, as you can see, add percent item percent car. And the application will give you an option of where your component could be, which one it is. And I know which one it is because I just happen to know the product. I drag and drop add item to cart component. Next, I want to do the view checkout. So basically what I'm doing here, if I'm not sure of the item's name, I just write them on the top, and the application will highlight which possible choices you can get. Shopping cart, so I'm adding them one by one. First, I added item to cart, then you click on a view cart, then you get to the shopping cart page. After that, you need to do the review and submit the requisition. And now I'm done. So basically, I submitted my requisition. I need to log out of the application. So this is done. I'm logged out of the application. Now the next person is coming into the next scenario. As you can see, we're done with the first scenario. This is why planning and housekeeping is really important. The next person will drag and will log into OAS, and this is the manager probably, and we'll navigate. We'll add the navigation, and we need to navigate to the auto create. So what we do, we just write auto create on the top, and it shows up search auto create. Basically, you search for the requisition, and then you auto create it. That's the form that you use. You select the line, because when you use the auto create form, it gives you all the available requisitions. Because what if I have 10, right? I only need that specific one. So we have a component for select that item on auto create, and we click the auto create to standard purchase order. This is just as far as the flow goes. And now we are in the purchase order, so we get the create PO header component. It's auto created already to purchase order, and you approve the PO. That should be really your work. And once you're done as a manager, you close all the forms and you exit the application. And this is the way to keep it clean. So you exit, then the next flow would start clean. So as you can see, we logged in, logged out. Now the question is, this is great, but those are all components that have no data in them, right? They're just generic. They work on any flow. How do we add data? Now, to add data, what you do, you right-click. You right-click on the actual name of the flow, and you download an Excel spreadsheet that's specific to this flow. So as you can see, all these components here that are listed, when you open that Excel spreadsheet, you'll see the customized components listed. The same components here are listed also, just like the ones you added. And whatever you do when you are in front of the application, the same data, you enter it here. So this is like, pretend like you're testing your flow in the application. This is why it's keyword driven. This is why, like, data driven. The data you enter in this sheet, it drives your flow. So we enter data, the same thing we do it in the application. Your login information, operations, welcome, that's your login. And then because I don't want to see me entering all the data here, we'll just microwave it. We'll use TV Magic, and we'll enter our navigation path. As you can see, the item's name here. Many of these areas, by the way, many of these fields are drop down. For example, checkout. We know it's a button that you click on in the actual application. So over here, it's a drop down that says true or false. So if you want to enable it, you just select true. Submit, when you submit your requisition, this is also a drop down that is true or false. So you just select true. So anything you want to activate, basically you select. Another question that always comes up, which is when you create a requisition in the first scenario here, that is a variable. It's a dynamically generated piece of data by the application. What happens? Anything that's dynamically generated, it gets saved by the tool, so you can use it again. So over here, when we want to search for that requisition, this would be a drop-down. So if you have 10 requisitions created, you'll see rec number 1, rec number 2, rec number 3, and you can select the specific requisition that you want to auto-create to the purchase order. So definitely variables can move around in here. So my data are in. I can change supplier name, anything I want to do, I can just update. And once I'm done, I save it and upload it back to the application. So by doing this, what takes a full day sometimes to create when it comes to automation, it's really literally took me less than an hour to create it, and voila, I have an automated flow right there. Another thing I would like to show you, which is really the icing on the cake, my favorite feature here. Once you're done creating this, to keep track of your inventory and to know what everybody is working on for audit purposes, you can actually generate a test plan. Once you create your test flow, it shows up in your list here. So basically, you right-click on it, and from the shortcut menu, you select Generate and download the test plan. So you generate the test plan by selecting that. And your test plan can show up in a Word document, HTML, any format you like it. So when you open it, you'll get just like a typical Word document. It shows you who created the test flow, when was it created, and this is definitely a treasure you can keep. And if you want to send it out for reviews, you can get the document control section up here, so people can actually review and approve or reject this automated flow. Because many times people say, I have no idea what's in this automated flow. Somebody created it. How do I know what's in it? This is how you know. And you make sure also that somebody on the product management or the functional side reviewed it and approved it, so we know this actual automated flow is really doing what's intended to do.
And Masen, if I may cut in here just quickly, I think that this is, in addition to what Masen said, I think this is really important, and that is that as testers, we are typically pretty good at documenting test cases the very first time we do something. But then we know that things changes. So we get someone that says, hey, you know, we just got some changes in this application or in this flow. We need to change the test automation for it. And we're always under a little bit more stress and constraints that we want it to be. So we typically don't necessarily maybe always take the time to update the documentation around the test cases. Now, if I use Flow Builder to build my test automation scripts, I get the documentation for free. So it actually shows me all of the different steps and everything that is done in plain English. And it shows me all the data that is entered into the test cases and all of that. So it's really cool and helps a lot.
Back to me?
Yeah, back to you.
All right. So thank you, Mikhail. So as Mikhail was saying, it really gives you the data. So you look at the outline here. We only had 2 scenarios, and they show up nicely and neatly. If you have 10 scenarios, you'll see the 10 listed. This is if somebody wants to take a quick scan to see what's going on. And also beyond the outline, you can look at the details step by step for each scenario, creator acquisition. It shows you what you do. Log into OIF. It tells you it's launching the URL. These are the passwords used. Your navigation. This is the navigation path. This is the data that's being used. You add the item. And every single piece of data is showing up. This is just like a regular test plan that you have. It goes all the way till the end. As you can see, the next scenario shows up, and I think this is really the icing on the cake. Now you're done with that. A couple of items I want to bring up here. Somebody can say, oh, you know, why is Flow Builder better than Record and Play? It's not better. Each one is used for what's intended to do. But what's so beautiful about Flow Builder is really lower cost of ownership. You as a customer, once you own it, if you create 500 flows and in the future you get a change or a patch on your system, and then all of a sudden a form changes or a page changes, you're going to break most of your test scripts. And once those test scripts are broken, you're going to have to throw them away and create new ones, by the way. And that defeats the purpose of making your life easier and getting automation. Well, not over here, because with Flow Builder, let's say one of these components have changed. Let's say, for example, the auto-create form has changed. You don't need to throw away this flow and redo it again. You can go to this component only, open it up, fix it, update it with the changes to reflect the changes, save it in the system, and then your flow stays intact. So if one change happens, you update it, and then your 500 flows are fine. Minimal downtime, minimal downtime. And I have many real live cases where we had things change, and previously when we used the previous tool that Mikhail talked about earlier, when we used the previous tool, when something changes, we literally had to go from 70% covered in terms of automation down to 10% sometimes. But now we just update that component and we're good to go. So definitely lower cost of ownership and downtime is not an issue there in terms of changes happening or any updates or upgrades. Another question always comes to mind, or not comes to mind, I always get asked that question: does it support customization? Absolutely. So let's say you have an additional page, an additional form, or a customized page or form that's similar to ours. Can we support it? Sure. You can either create a component to cover your page or grab one of our components. If, for example, the, create purchase order header. If yours is customized, open the one we give you, the generic one, and add fields to it. You saw how easy that sheet looks. It looks just like Excel. You add fields, you delete fields, you shuffle fields around, you move them around. You add your stuff to it. The same way you use it in Excel, you use it in a system. You save it, and it's a one-time task, and then your component is reflected here in the system already, and your customization is already updated here. So really, no fear there. With that, I want to show you real quick how do we execute this script that we created. So we go to the execution flow, and now I have my flow created here. And it shows up on the left side, like I said. You right-click on the flow. See, I love those shortcut menus. It's really ease of use, and so far you have not seen anything that's related to writing the code, not even a single line of code. So what we do over here, we just generate the flow. When you generate it, it means you want to save it somewhere so you can go and run it out of our player piece, which is the OpenScript piece. That's how you play, you run your flows. So let's generate it to save it somewhere. And you get that little form. You enter the place where you want to save it, the location. I want to save it on my D drive, temp directory. And then there are some other areas here where you can have a forced wait, normal wait, to make sure like it waits like 30 seconds between each step. Or you can have a page wait, like for this page, for example, wait 10 minutes or 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever. So the normal wait is forced between each step. Page wait is just you wait for that specific page for that long. If you know your environment has slower performance, for example, I would use normal wait to make sure everything goes slow. If it's not just one page, usually takes forever, I will add that in there. We have rerunnable. Rerunnable, it's usually for unique data. For example, you want to create an employee or an item in a system. Once that is created, you cannot run your script again. It'll error out. It'll tell you that item already exists. So you can only run that automated script in the environment one time. Again, that defeats the purpose of automation. When you do rerunnable, that means that item, when it runs the first time, it'll be, let's say you want to create an employee, so it'll be like John 1, John 2, John 3. It'll have a suffix or prefix, depending on what you tell it to do here, in front of that piece of data. So any data I want it to be unique. When I fill out the Excel spreadsheet with data, I put the question mark in front of it or after it, and that question mark here translates to rerunnable. So your unique data can run over and over in the same environment. You don't have to say, I can only run this automated flow one time because my employee or item have already been created. You can basically do it rerunnable. So we enter this information, and then we save our flow somewhere, wherever we want to save it, usually on our shared server. So once that is saved, we close Flow Builder. We're done with it. And it's closed, and we go to open our OpenScript tool, which is a player where you can execute your automated flows. And that's going to run.
And I think it's important here to mention that we have a couple of different ways when you want to execute the script. So you could, of course, execute them from OpenScript, which Maasen is kind of opening up the script from here. if you want to debug it or something like that. But that's normally not what you would do if you would do, running a batch of test scripts. So what you would do is you would use the Oracle Test Manager, or you would fire them off from a command line or something like that. Or
exactly. I'm only running here just one script for you, but definitely you can run them in batches. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm almost done, Mikhail. Let me just finish that real quick. So basically, you come to the player, you just open a script. Wherever you saved it, you open it, and you click the play button. And that's all what it takes, and you just watch it rip through. So one more minute, and I should be done there. Basically, it's remember the first component launch application. So this is exactly what it does. Enter your prompt for URL. You enter the URL, and then there goes. It just goes like any other flow. Basically, it looks for the item. It runs the item. And how am I doing on time, George?
We're doing okay. We only have a couple minutes left.
Okay, let me finish. In 1 minute is good, right? So we're adding the item here. And as you can see, any place where you are working, where the focus is on, it turns into red. We're checked out.
Yeah, and you can't change that color. I get that question frequently. It's always red.
Oh, really? Okay, so but now you signed out. The manager comes in. They sign in with their own credential, and they navigate to the auto create. I'm checking everything is running fine. It's running to go into the auto create form, and as you can see, it supports HTML and forms. So now it launches the form server, and it goes into the auto create form itself, and it enters the requisition number that was created, which is a variable that was in the memory. It finds it, it adds it. That should be done in the next few seconds. Then after that, you get the purchase order, which is, once you auto-create it, you get the purchase order, and that is, yep, it's right there. I changed the site name to the same one I have in the Excel spreadsheet. I hit approve, submit for approval, and it's approved. Really, it's as easy as this. Now we see the status is approved for the purchase order. Now I'm done. What I do, I close all the forms, and this is what my flow is doing. I close all the forms and exit the application. That was a nice flow we just ran. The question is, now everything is done. How do I know my result? Did it work? Did it not? Right. This is the tool, and this is just the basic report. Like Mikhail was saying, Test Manager gives you much more attractive reports. This is the basic one. Our flow ran, and it's passed. You look at the details. It gives you every single execution step, piece by piece, what's passed, what's not. If something has not passed, it'll be marked in red, and it'll tell you failed instead of passed. You can verify data if you want to make sure any data, like something says approved, it'll tell you actual versus expected. All that information would be available. Also, if you want screenshots, as you can see here, we see many areas where you see screenshots. You can enable that. So that would be an evidence that something ran and worked. And definitely this is a screenshot. And basically this is your report. And that was my demo.
So Mazen, we do have a couple quick questions. Let me throw these out real quick.
Go ahead.
So I believe this question came in when you were talking about when a component is updated with a new release of OATS or Flow Builder. And the question is, how do you know that a component needs to be changed or updated? Is there a flag of some sort?
Well, so you're saying if you get a patch, and I'm sorry, I did not see that. The actual question.
So Martin, the question is really, so you have all these 3,600 pre-built components that we ship with Flow Builder and give to the customers. And then the customer gets a new version of OATS, for example. So they get, another number of components. And the question is, how do they know which components to tweak and change and modify? And I guess the answer is they have to understand what kind of modifications they are doing internally for EBS, for example, what kind of KIM lists they have, And then based on that, they can go and look for those specific components and see what kind of changes they have to incorporate. That's one way of doing it. And I guess the other way would be just to, use the components and, create your flows, and you will see where your components or flows break actually. That's the places where you will need to tweak a little bit.
Right.
Maybe you have some better ideas.
Correct. Mikhail, just to add to it, by the way, I mean, yeah, internally here what happens when you get a new patch, we just run our flows, whatever breaks, we see what broke and how, and we know the changes. Now, if something that needs to be changed, like structure-wise, not data, something needs to be updated, so let's say we went from 12.1 to 12.2 and some pages or forms, something has been changed, we do it internally and we'll let you know, we'll let the customers know that with this new release, you need to update your tool. This is one way. And this is why we offer support for 12.1, 12.2, because it supports that release. But let's say you get a patch and that patch changes something on your end. Also, remember, with the patch, you get the functional impact document, the FIA document, which I always promote and talk about. It tells you in details what has been changed and what the impact is. That should tell you what changes on your end, especially when you have customization. Yeah.
And then, Mikhail, you had mentioned about the 3,000 and some components that come with the initial starter pack. Someone had asked a question relating to that. Does Flow Builder come with pre-built scripts for order to cash, procure to pay, etc.? So I don't know if you want to expound on that at all.
Well, I think I passed that to Masen, actually. He knows that far better than I do. We have a pretty good coverage in the starter pack, but Masen, maybe you can expand on that.
Right. I'm going here to this page. So basically, you get, with the starter pack, you get 230 flows. And in terms of details, they really cover products across eBusiness Suite. And definitely, we have a link that later on you can connect to George. He'll send you the link that gives you the details of what those flows are with names and where they are with. We have like order to cash, we have P2P, procure to pay flows. Those are, because this is really certifying and making sure things work. So definitely, we have many of those. And also you get a lot of flows here as well in advanced pack. So we have a detailed link that would tell you what is available and to make sure that you are covered in terms of what you're looking for.
Great. We do have there are one or two other questions, but I think I'll need to pass on to you guys, and we'll get back to anybody else that has any further questions moving on. Following up, since we're already past the hour, following up from here, we will follow up with the folks that attended, but you can also send an email request to schedule a Flow Builder discovery call. We'll reach out to you to do that, because there's 3 steps that we need to do: is to understand what your organization's current use case is for testing EBS. We would advise you then on licensing and professional services costs, those types of things, and come up with a best recommendation for you as you pass forward how to take advantage of Flow Builder and Oats in your environment. So at this point, we will reach out to everyone to follow up, and I will specifically pass on any other questions we receive on to Mikhail and to Masen. Mikhail and Masen, thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. We're happy to help.
All the attendees that came out and spent an hour with us to learn about Flow Builder for EBS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.